Hello and welcome. I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching NewsX World. Let's first take a look at our top stories. Donald Trump has given his first speech to Congress since taking office on January the 20th. The US president hailed his foreign policy action, stating America is back, while Democrats jeered, with some walking out in protest. During his speech, Trump reveals that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is ready to negotiate after last week's White House clash. The US president also signals that Russia is ready for peace, with serious discussions taking place. President Trump has also announced further reciprocal tariffs on India as US stock markets fall over trade war fears. Mexico and Canada have hit back at Trump as Trudeau calls US tariffs a very dumb thing to do. Arab leaders have agreed on a 5-year, $53 billion plan to rebuild Gaza as an alternative to Trump's Riviera of the Middle East concept. The US and Israel have rejected the notion, while Hamas have welcomed the proposal. US imposed tariffs have sparked a trade war with retaliation from both China and Canada. Trump has given various reasons for the tariffs, including curbing drugs, bringing manufacturing back to the US, and punishing countries he says take advantage of America. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau criticised Trump's actions, suggesting they aim to weaken Canada's economy, even claiming that Trump wants to collapse Canada for easier annexation. In response, Canada has announced retaliatory tariffs on $20.5 billion worth of American goods. Trudeau warned that while Trump's actions could hurt Canada, they would also harm American families. In response to US tariffs, China has announced additional tariffs on key US agricultural products, including chicken, pork, soybeans and beef, up to 15%. This comes after President Trump raised US tariffs on Chinese goods to 20%. Mexico has also retaliated with its own set of tariffs on US goods. The global trade tensions continue to escalate, affecting markets and trade relations, escalating the trade war. Joining us first to discuss this topic, we're joined by Gautam Mukherjee, who is a senior journalist. Gautam, thank you very much for your time. It seems like we are heading towards something of a full-blown trade war. Retaliatory tariffs have been put in place by the countries that Trump has targeted. What do you think the direct impact of these will be? Will we see further tariffs from the United States to counter these retaliatory tariffs?
Well, I think America can withstand the kind of tariffs that Canada and Mexico can put on it. They have already calculated that in. The real trade deficit, however, is with China, where they must make progress. China's trade deficit in its favor is about $1 trillion. Now you have to bring that down. Otherwise, this is no trade. It's a one-way street. So that, I think, will result in negotiations and reductions. What I'm seeing from Canada is pure bluster. It's not going to get them anywhere. They are a highly subsidized nation as far as America goes. And if they cut the subsidies, they'll be on their knees. Mexico, likewise, they don't really have any muscle to withstand or retaliate. Europe, I don't know what will happen. But from the Indian perspective, I welcome Trump's reciprocal tariffs coming on April the 2nd. India has no logic to half its tariffs. It's just very high trade barriers left over from socialist times. And the bureaucrats have a lot of inertia about them, so they don't change it. This is what holds up our free trade agreements. I was listening to former Prime Minister Tony Abbott, who came here recently for a conclave, and he said that he participated in the interim FTA with with Australia, and the kind of tariffs that India had on various things was amazing. And he used his diplomacy to slash a lot of them, which were accepted at the top level. But the bureaucrats find ways of putting them back, if not in one place, then in another, addendums, codicils. So we will be benefited. 600 million middle-class Indians will be benefited by Trump's insistence on reciprocal tariffs. That means we cannot go at it piecemeal. For example, we were to sell textiles and we lower tariffs on textiles just to sell textiles. Trump will say, but you've got 100% on cars, bring them on par with India, with what we do to you, and then you can sell your textiles. I think this is a net benefit to the people. It will affect some of the big boys, the big industries, some of the privileged who are used to high trade barriers helping them make fat profits, and now they'll have to compete harder.
Yes, Gautam, I'd like to stay with you and bring it back to Canada. Trudeau hasn't pulled any punches in what he said, calling Trump's tariff decisions dumb. Looking now at the position that Canada will be in, they have said, of course, that these tariffs are potentially going to leave them vulnerable for annexation. Strong words from Trudeau. Do you think that is the reality, or is this him trying to look strong in a position where we know he won't be for much longer?
Well, Trudeau's diplomacy is deplorable. He knows how to insult people he cannot afford to insult, and countries that his country is dependent upon. And he'll soon be gone, and hopefully saner counsel will prevail. What he's saying and doing, he cannot use language like Trump does, because Trump is Trump and he is the president of the United States, and Trudeau is only the president of Canada. So it doesn't work. What he's saying is not applicable. Yes, they well may be annexed if they keep on being recalcitrant. They have to cooperate with what America wants. And if they don't do it, they will be very hardly done by in terms of their economy.
Yes, also joining us to discuss the latest developments revolving tariffs and Donald Trump is Sharad Kohli, who is a senior economist. Sharad, thank you very much for being here with us. I want to look at the impact now of these tariffs. Canada and other nations have, of course, spoken about the impacts within America. How do you see these tariffs playing out for the average family living in the States?
Good afternoon, Joshua, and good afternoon to the viewers of the NewsX World channel. I think the reality of these tariffs are going to sink in some time. 2nd April is the date when the reciprocal tariffs come into existence, and they will become effective. I was working out the number of countries. It could be as many as 100 odd countries, 100 to 120. Or what the United States needs to say, if you heard the congressional address he gave last night or today morning of our time in India, he said there's going to be some temporary problem which people are going to face because of these tariffs. Now, that's where I differ. I think the problems are not going to be temporary. A lot of these problems are going to be long-lasting and permanent. And I'll tell you where they come from. Where the step is the first is going to hit America, unless he's or fields where they're going to manufacture and grow each one of those items which are being imported from these different countries. And I must speak here that these items include fruit, vegetables, food grains, textiles, clothing, metals, not precious stones, jewelry. I mean, the list is
We are going to work on our line there with Sharad. I'm going to come back to you, Gautam Mukherjee, to end this discussion. We have to look, of course, at the border nations. Big talk around the flow of drugs. Big talk about immigration as well. Claudia Scheinbaum has retaliated with tariffs of her own. With tensions rising with the border nations and the United States, how do you think this will play out over the next few weeks and months?
Well, I think both Canada and Mexico have no choice but to cooperate with Trump. Retaliatory moves will only hurt them. And like a lot of Europeans who've been, saying bold things, but realizing when they do their numbers that they are in no position to really challenge America, these two will also have to fall in line. There is no go. Trump is absolutely serious about the movement of fentanyl and illegal immigrants. And these two things will have to be stopped in their entirety. And both the governments will have to show proof that they have done things to make that possible.
Thank you very much, Gautam Mukherjee, and also thank you to Sharad Kohli for joining us. Chaos, clashes and controversy. Trump's speech to Congress turned into a political showdown. A Democrats' protest sign was ripped away, lawmakers in pink made a bold statement, and Al Green was ejected mid-session. Here is how it all unfolded.
Donald Trump delivers his first major address to Congress since returning to the White House, outlining his economic vision and spending plans, but the night is overshadowed by protests from Democrats. In a coordinated protest, Democratic lawmakers wore pink to symbolize opposition to Trump's economic and social policies. Tensions escalate as Republican Lance Gooden forcibly yanks the sign from Democrat Melanie Stansbury, causing an uproar in the chamber. Chaos intensifies as Texas Democrat Al Green interrupts Trump's speech, slamming his proposed Medicaid cuts.
Members are engaging in willful and continuing breach of decorum, and the chair is prepared to direct the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order to the joint session.
Green is forcibly removed as Republicans applaud, highlighting the deep partisan divide over Trump's economic policies.
I was making it clear to the president that he has no mandate to cut Medicaid. I have people who are very fearful. These are poor people, and they have only Medicaid in their lives when it comes to their health care. I'm willing to suffer whatever punishment is available to me. I didn't say to anyone, don't punish me. I've said I'll accept the punishment, but it's worth it to let people know that there are some of us who are going to stand up against this president's desire to cut Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security.
Democratic Senator Elissa Slotkin delivers a blistering rebuttal, accusing Trump of prioritizing billionaires over working Americans. Democrats warn that Trump's tariffs on allies will increase costs for energy, lumber, and cars, while his healthcare cuts could threaten Medicare, Social Security, and veterans' benefits. A night meant to showcase Trump's policy vision turned into a political battleground, exposing the deepening divide in Washington. As the White House pushes forward, Democrats vow fierce resistance. Bureau Report, NewsX World.
We now head to Europe, and in Serbia, the National Assembly has descended into chaos as opposition lawmakers resorted to extreme measures reflecting deep-seated political tensions. In a shocking turn of events, opposition members hurled smoke bombs and flares during a parliamentary session, leading to physical altercations. At least 3 lawmakers sustained injuries, notably Jasmina Obradovic, who is in a serious condition after being struck by a projectile. This occurred during a session intended to vote on increasing university funding. The opposition accused the ruling majority of planning illegal approvals of other decisions without confirming Prime Minister Miloš Vukovic's resignation. Opposition parties are demanding the establishment of a transitional government to ensure fair elections, which is firmly rejected by the ruling populists. Despite aspirations for European Union membership, President Alexander Vucic's administration maintains a stringent hold on power, further fueling public dissent. Joining us first to discuss this situation, we have Sasha Dobrajevich, who is a Serbian diplomatic journalist joining us from Belgrade. Sasha, thank you very much for being here. I'd really like an understanding from you of an overall picture of the situation currently in Serbia. What really is it that the people are frustrated about, the opposition are frustrated about, that has led us to this point where we have these scenes like we see on screen of chaos in the parliaments?
Thank you very much for having me. Well, the Serbia have issues about economic, about the corruption and social issues. But you know, everything changed when the canopy in Novi Sad fell down, and tragically, we have lost 15 people. After that, we have 4 months protest on the streets in every city in Serbia. And the protests are larger and larger. So this event yesterday, it was like, I don't know how to explain, but people don't have trust anymore in ruling government and opposition and all. Everything is came up. Everybody is watching students now. I mean, they are the new hope. They are the new diplomacy in the streets, believe it or not, because they have their own demands. They want transparency in that documentation about the renovation of the railroad station and the canopy as well. So now we have a new diplomacy on the street. I was in two or several groups on social media, one with students and the other with citizens, and everybody is saying the same. They don't trust the ruling party, they don't trust opposition, and they are watching only students. I mean, this picture wasn't good enough to show the real picture of citizens and the Serbia as well.
Sasha, staying with you, what is the reaction now from the people to what has happened? You said there's discontent, with politicians in general. Is this seen maybe as a match that will light the touch paper and really kick off further movement, or is this just a representation of that discontent across the board?
Well, the opposition is justifying their action because they don't have the transparency in dialogue. So we can see that so-called of violence in that event and incident yesterday. And overall, I mean, even they have justified their act, nobody is trust them. Nobody is watching them like, yes, they are going to change something. And everybody in Serbia, I mean, something changed. After that fall of the canopy in the city of Novi Sad, the energy in Serbia have changed a lot. The students' movement, I mean, the student protest shows some kind of new energy. They are walking over 150 kilometers from city to city to organize protests. As I mentioned before, they are larger and larger, and citizens are watching students. They are gathering and to support them. So, and overall, the students are the new diplomacy in the streets, as I said before, and they are not allowing opposition to be the part of that. They want to make the clean energy. And you know, when they walking through the Serbia, we can see some kind of new energy in the citizens. They are trying to provide the food, the water to help them in any way. And people in Serbia nowadays are crying, no matter if they are on the streets or they are watching from their homes. But some kind of new energy is here, and everybody's watching the students. Nobody's watching the politicians. They are, in a way, done. The new policy, the new politicians are the youth energy, actually students.
Sasha, I also want to look now at what reaction we might see. We know that somebody is in a bad medical way. Also, of course, the ruling party probably aren't going to leave this one as is. So what reaction do you think we'll see from the ruling party? And what instability could that then cause if we're seeing action against the opposition party?
Well, everybody is judging that violence, really. I mean, first of all, they are saying that the opposition injured the woman who was hit in the head. Then the footage showed that somebody from their party did that. I mean, it's so confusing. And now we need to wait the analysis of all of these events. And as I said before, the whole Serbia is watching students and what they are going to do. They're not stopping. They're making the biggest protest ever in Belgrade in 15 March, I guess. And they're calling people to be calm, to have like that peaceful protest, not the violence that we can see also on political scene.
Yes, staying with us was Gautam Mukherjee, the senior journalist who's going to continue discussing this topic that's happening in Europe. We're looking at a country which does have aspirations, Gautam, to be in the European Union. Does this level of political chaos potentially limit those opportunities in your eyes?
Well, for the moment, joining the European Union is not a very good idea because it is already overextended, and the key constituents of it, that is France and Germany, followed by Britain, Spain, Italy, none of them are doing well economically. And they've already expanded the UN considerably, so the EU considerably. So to talk of joining the EU currently may not be worth anybody's while. In terms of Serbian behavior affecting this, I think that is the least of the problems with regard to EU. Maybe it's not worth joining anymore, or at least at this point in time.
Coming back to you, Sasha, to finish this discussion, where do you think the next moves are for the ruling party, and how do you think this one will play out? We've seen 4 months of protests since the Novi Sad roof collapse, the deadly Novi Sad roof collapse. How do you think this turns into some form of normality moving forward?
Well, it's hard to say. I think that they made a big mistake with some kind of regime medias and media gaslighting. Actually, when we had like 120,000 people on the streets, the media, those kind of media said that there are only 20,000 people. And now the event is not on the TV screen. It's on the streets, and that's the main issue. Now people can see that something is wrong, that something is happening. But you know what? As I said before, people are gathering, that there is some kind of good energy in Serbia. They cried a lot, they gather around the students. They want to be like in a peaceful way to make some kind of freedom and good democracy. I don't know what will happen. I guess nobody knows what is going on in the future. But I guess the students are the winners of the new democracy and the new wave in Serbia in that kind of way. I mean that the ruling party need to be aware that now the event is not on TV screen, but in the streets.
Sasha, thank you so much for your insight. Also, Gautam, thank you very much for joining us and providing us with your opinions. We now will take a look at some stories coming in from across Europe. Leaders of the Conservatives and the Social Democrats say they agree to easing Germany's debt brake. This would allow higher defence spending and support a €500 billion infrastructure fund. CDU leader Friedrich Merz, who is expected to become German Chancellor after his recent snap election victory, said, "We are aware of the scale of the tasks ahead of us, and we want to take the first necessary steps and decisions." According to the UK's Home Office, Americans applied for British citizenship in record numbers last year, with a noticeable jump in applications in late 2024, around the time of the US presidential election. A similar surge happened in early 2020 when many Americans gave up their citizenship. France's Prime Minister François Bayrou called the US pause on military aid to Ukraine unbearable. He said it amounts to abandoning Ukrainians and could lead to a Russian victory. The French leader, a close ally of President Emmanuel Macron, also criticised White House pressure on Ukraine to quickly negotiate an end to the war. Irish police are investigating a stabbing incident involving two boys at a primary school in North Dublin. The 11-year-old victim was taken to a hospital's intensive care unit and has serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Police are working with school management to understand the incident. It is not being treated as a criminal case due to the boys' ages, as the minimum age of responsibility in Ireland is 12. The Education Department confirmed support for the staff and school community is being provided. A car bomb attack in northwest Pakistan has claimed 12 lives, including 3 children. As per reports, the death toll is likely to rise. The attack was claimed by a faction of the Hafiz-ul-Bahuda terror group. Watch this report for the latest updates.
At least 12 people have been killed after a bombing attack at a security installation in Pakistan's northwestern border province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. As per reports, 2 attackers rammed 2 explosive-laden vehicles into the wall of the compound in Bannu, and other attackers stormed the site before being repelled. Over 30 people have been wounded in the attack. They were all civilians who had been caught under collapsed buildings and walls. At least 7 are children among those killed in the bombing. A group affiliated with the Pakistan Taliban claimed responsibility for the attack and said that dozens of members of Pakistani security forces were killed. However, there is no immediate comment from the military regarding any casualties. The attack comes days after a suicide bomber killed 6 people at an Islamic religious school in Pakistan, attended by key Taliban leaders in the same province. Bureau Report, NewsX World.
Now for the latest from across the Indo-Pacific region. Japan's worst wildfire in 50 years has killed 1 person and forced nearly 4,000 people to evacuate in Ofanato. The fire has burned around 2,900 hectares, damaging at least 84 buildings. Rain and snow have begun falling, offering hope for relief. A city official said firefighters have been working on the ground through the night to extinguish the fire. He later added, "We are hoping that snow, which started to fall this morning, will help." Forecasters predict that tropical cyclone Alfred will strike near the bustling Brisbane city on Friday morning. It is the first typhoon to hit the region in more than 50 years. Flooding, rains, destructive winds and violent waves are expected to batter a densely populated stretch of the coastline, straddling the border of Queensland State and New South Wales. According to City Council modelling, almost 20,000 homes in Brisbane City alone are at risk of being impacted. Russia and Myanmar have signed an agreement on the construction of a small-scale nuclear plant in Myanmar. This occurred after talks in Moscow between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Myanmar junta chief Min Aung Hlaing. Following their discussions, both leaders addressed the media and issued joint statements. In this statement, they highlighted the strengthened cooperation between the two nations, aiming to enhance trade and investment. Bangladesh Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus says ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina will stand trial for crimes against humanity. He also added a trial will be taking place not only for her but also for the people who are associated with her. Hasina is accused of overseeing a system of enforced disappearances during her time in government, as well as the mass killing of protesters in July and August last year. Bangladesh has issued 2 arrest warrants for her. Yunus said they had sent formal letters but received no official response from New Delhi. He insisted, however, that Hasina would face the court, whether physically present in Bangladesh or in absentia in India. Rescuers have just discovered the wreckage of a Philippine fighter jet and the bodies of its 2 pilots. The wreckage was found in a mountainous region in the country's south, where they had been deployed on a nighttime mission to fight a guerrilla group. The FA-50 jet lost communication during the combat mission with other Air Force aircraft after midnight on Tuesday. The other aircrafts were able to return safely to an airbase in central Kivu province after carrying out assaults. That is all we have time for, but we'll continue to bring you the latest international news as we get it.